I used to count my tears until I realized he was counting them too, as trophies. For 4 years, Jason had convinced me that my strength was actually cruelty, my independence was selfishness, and my voice was nothing but noise that hurt him. I believed I was the monster he painted me to be. How could I not? The masterpiece of his manipulation had been crafted so meticulously that I couldn't see the brushstrokes anymore. "Look what you've done to me," he would whisper, his voice breaking just enough to make my heart crack alongside it. His eyes would well with tears that never quite fell, the perfect amount of moisture to glisten in the light but not enough to streak his cheeks. I didn't know then that he practiced this expression in the mirror. The worst part wasn't the accusations or the guilt or even the isolation. It was how he made me comfort him after he hurt me. How he'd turn every argument into my apology tour. How he'd clutch his chest like my words were bullets, then make me bandage the wounds I supposedly inflicted. "No one will ever love you like I do," he'd say. "No one will ever understand your difficulties." He'd pause then, letting that word hang between us like a diagnosis I never received but somehow earned. I nodded. I apologized. I became smaller. Until the day I found his journal, and discovered I wasn't the first. Nor would I be the last. Unless I stopped him. That was the day I decided. The puppet would learn to pull her own strings. Everyone thought Jason and I were perfect together. He was charming, attentive, and so publicly devoted that my friends would sigh with envy. "You're so lucky, Emily," they'd say. I'd smile and nod, wondering why I felt so hollow inside such apparent luck. It started slowly. A comment about my outfit being a bit much. A sigh when I spent time with friends. The hurt look when I disagreed with him over dinner. "I just thought we were on the same page," he'd say, his voice small. "I guess I was wrong about us." I met Jason at Sarah's housewarming party. I was 25, fresh out of a creative writing program, full of ambition and what he later called my adorable overconfidence. He approached with a warm smile and a glass of wine for me. "You looked thirsty," he said. "I've been watching you talk passionately about books for 20 minutes straight." What I mistook for admiration was actually reconnaissance. The first time I saw the crack in his performance was 6 months in. We were having dinner with his college friends, and I told a story about a publishing internship I'd had. Mid-laugh, I caught his expression, a flash of something cold and strange, before he smoothed it into a smile. "Emily tends to exaggerate," he said lightly. "It makes for better stories, right, babe?" I felt the table shift imperceptibly. His friends chuckled. I hadn't exaggerated anything. On the way home, when I asked about it, he said, "I was just teasing. Why are you so sensitive?" Then his voice dropped to that wounded tone. "It hurts that you'd think I'd deliberately undermine you." I apologized. I always apologized. That night, as he slept peacefully beside me, I stared at the ceiling and wondered why winning an argument with Jason always felt like I'd lost something more important. When Jason and I moved in together after a year of dating, my excitement quickly gave way to an unsettling realization. My world was shrinking. "Do you really need to go to Katie's birthday? You saw her last month," he'd say with a concerned frown. "And you've been so tired lately. I'm just worried about you." His concern always sounded genuine. That was his gift, making control sound like care. My best friend Megan was the first to notice. "Emily, I haven't seen you in weeks," she said when she finally cornered me at a coffee shop. "Is everything okay?" "Jason's just been going through a rough patch at work," I explained. "He needs support right now." "And what about what you need?" she asked. That night, Jason was waiting when I got home. "Who were you with?" he asked casually, not looking up from his phone. "Just Megan." He said, his tone shifting. "She never liked me, you know. I can tell." "That's not true," I defended, though I wasn't sure anymore. "I saw how she looked at me at Christmas. She's probably filling your head with all sorts of things." His voice cracked slightly. "It hurts that you'd choose to spend time with someone who doesn't respect our relationship." After that, I saw Megan less and less. Then my college friends. Then my coworkers outside of work hours. Jason's friends became our friends. Jason's schedule became our schedule. Jason's needs became the center of my universe. When I'd reach for my phone to text someone from my previous life, I'd hear his voice in my head. "Why are you always on your phone when I'm right here? Don't I matter to you?" By our second anniversary, I'd become so careful with my words, so measured in my actions, that sometimes I'd catch my reflection and not recognize the woman staring back at me, this cautious, quiet version of Emily who checked with Jason before making any decision at all.
The cage was comfortable now. I'd forgotten what it felt like to fly. You don't remember? We definitely talked about this last week. Jason's voice was patient, almost pitying.
I stood in our kitchen, staring at the calendar on my phone. I could have sworn we'd agreed to have dinner with my parents this weekend, not his brother Ryan.
I
thought we said next weekend for Ryan. I ventured, my voice already losing conviction.
Jason sighed, placing his hands on my shoulders.
Emily, this is exactly what Dr. Miller was talking about.
Your memory issues.
He spoke gently, as if to a child. Remember when you forgot our anniversary dinner reservations last year?
But I hadn't forgotten those reservations.
Jason had told me the wrong date, then acted devastated when I didn't show up. I'd spent hours apologizing, bringing him his favorite takeout, massaging his shoulders while he forgave me with that pained smile.
Maybe you should restart those vitamins, he suggested.
Your mom mentioned you had attention problems as a kid.
I couldn't recall my mother ever saying such a thing. But Jason spoke with such certainty that I began to doubt myself. Was my memory really this unreliable?
Later that week, I found a text from Jason to Ryan, set for Saturday. Emily finally agreed. The timestamp was from yesterday. When I confronted him, showing him the text, Jason's face darkened before transforming into hurt disbelief.
Are you spying on me now? Checking my phone?
After everything I've done for you.
His voice cracked.
Do you have any idea how it feels to be distrusted by the person you love most? To walk on eggshells around your mood swings?
I felt the familiar guilt crash over me.
I'm sorry, I just thought. You always just thought, he interrupted. And it always ends with me being the bad guy.
His eyes welled up.
My therapist says I need to establish boundaries with people who make me feel unsafe. That night, I lay awake wondering if I was the toxic one in our relationship. Maybe my perception really was distorted. Maybe I was hurting him without realizing it. But a tiny, persistent voice deep inside whispered, or maybe he's rewriting reality to keep you confused. For the first time, I allowed myself to listen to it.
I found it by accident.
While searching for a phone charger in Jason's desk drawer, my fingers brushed against a leather-bound notebook I'd never seen before.
I shouldn't have opened it. Some part of me knew that crossing this boundary would change everything. But I did.
The first page was dated 3 years before we met, Amanda, day 1. The entry described how he'd approached her at a bookstore, how her confidence needed work, how he planned to help her become dependent.
My hands trembled as I flipped forward.
Pages upon pages documented his relationship with Amanda, her weaknesses, the adjustments he made to her personality, his frustration when she began to resist correction. The final entry about her read: Amanda has become a liability. Her friend Tara is asking too many questions. Time for the discard phase. Then came Brittany, day 1. Then Courtney, day 1. Then Danielle, day 1. And finally, Emily, day 1. My breath caught as I read his assessment of me, strong-willed but insecure about her creativity. Responds well to initial praise followed by subtle undermining. Classic daddy issues. Seeks male validation. Easy target. I read every word about myself, watching through his eyes as the Emily he described grew smaller, more dependent, more broken.
His tone was clinical, almost bored at times.
In one entry, he wrote, had to perform the wounded routine again today when she questioned the gas bill. Tedious, but effective. The most recent entry was from yesterday, Emily becoming unstable.
Megan reaching out again. May need to accelerate timeline.
Ryan's place is ready if needed. I took pictures of every page with shaking hands, then carefully returned the journal exactly as I'd found it. I went to the bathroom, turned on the shower, and sat on the floor as hot water steam filled the room.
For women before me. For women he'd systematically broken down. For women who probably still blamed themselves. And I was about to become the fifth to be discarded. Something shifted inside me then.
Not fear, not even anger yet. Something colder, clearer. I'd spent 4 years doubting my reality.
Now, I had proof. The game had changed.
I created a separate email account that night while Jason slept. I named it survivors@gmail.com and began my search. It took 3 days to find Amanda. Her LinkedIn profile showed she'd moved to Seattle, changed careers from marketing to social work. Her personal website mentioned she now counseled victims of psychological abuse.
I sent her a message with screenshots of Jason's journal entries about her.
Within hours, she responded. I've been waiting for this call for years.
Brittany was harder to locate.
She'd virtually disappeared from social media after her time with Jason. Eventually, through mutual connections, I found her living in Chicago. When I reached out, her response was a single line. How did you get free?
I hadn't. Not yet.
Courtney never replied to my messages, but her sister did. Courtney's still recovering. She tried to take her own life after what he did to her. Danielle responded immediately with a phone number. When I called, she was already crying.
I thought I was crazy, she said. No one believed me.
He was so good at being the victim. We arranged a video call, all of us except Courtney. 5 women, connected by the same predator. As we shared our stories, the pattern became unmistakable.
The love bombing.
The isolation.
The gaslighting.
The manufactured crises that always ended with us apologizing. The gradual erosion of our identities. He's planning something, I told them, explaining about Ryan's place and the accelerated timeline.
That's where he took me before the discard, Brittany said quietly. His brother's cabin. No cell service. No neighbors. He recorded things.
To use against me later.
My blood ran cold.
We need to stop him, Amanda said firmly. Not just for Emily, but for whoever comes after her.
How? Danielle asked. We tried to warn people about him before.
He's too charming, too convincing.
Because we tried individually, I said, an idea forming. But there are 5 of us now. 5 women with the same story.
And I have his journal. That night, when Jason came home, I smiled and apologized for overreacting about the weekend plans. I told him I'd love to go to Ryan's cabin for a getaway. I watched his relief, the subtle triumphant gleam in his eyes when he thought he'd regained control.
For the first time in 4 years, I had a secret of my own. And it felt like power.
I moved through our apartment like an actress playing the role of devoted girlfriend, a performance I'd learned from the master himself. Each smile, each touch, each I love you was calculated. My mind had separated from my heart, a survival mechanism that now served a different purpose. While Jason was at work, I met with Amanda at a cafe 3 towns over. What he does is textbook narcissistic abuse, she explained, sliding a file folder across the table. I've been documenting patterns of men like him since I escaped. It's not just about emotional damage, it's about financial exploitation, identity theft, sometimes worse. I opened the folder to find printouts of police reports, restraining orders, and testimonials from other women who'd survived relationships like ours. None specifically named Jason, but the tactics were identical. Why didn't any of these lead to charges? I asked. Amanda's eyes hardened. The system isn't built to recognize psychological warfare. No bruises, no crime. And when victims try to speak up, they look like the crazy ones. I finished. Exactly. She took my hand. That's why we need to be strategic. Your evidence is valuable, but it's not enough. The journal could be dismissed as fiction. Your word against his. And Jason's very good at appearing credible. I knew she was right. I'd watched him charm therapists, friends, even my own family into believing his version of reality. What about the recordings Brittany mentioned? I asked. Amanda's expression darkened. That's what worries me most about the cabin plan. If it's escalating to creating compromising material. I'm not backing out, I said firmly. The cabin trip is our chance. All 5 of us agreed. She nodded reluctantly. Just remember, men like Jason can sense when they are losing control. That's when they are most dangerous. That night, when Jason suggested we leave for the cabin a day early, just to have more alone time, I felt a chill down my spine. But I smiled and told him it was a perfect idea. Behind my smile was the knowledge that Danielle had already booked a room at the only motel within 10 miles of Ryan's cabin. That Brittany was already in position. That Amanda had a backup plan if things went wrong. For the first time since I'd met Jason, I wasn't alone against his manipulation. I had allies who understood, who believed me, who saw through his mask because they'd seen it before. As I packed our bags, Jason wrapped his arms around me from behind. I think this weekend is going to change everything for us, he murmured into my hair. On that point, at least, we were in perfect agreement. The drive to Ryan's cabin took 3 hours. Jason chatted animatedly about work, a new restaurant he wanted to try, plans for our future, all the charming conversation that had once made me fall for him. I nodded and smiled, feeling the weight of my phone in my pocket with its secret text chain connecting me to 4 other women. Almost there, Jason said as we turned onto a gravel road. The woods grew thicker around us, swallowing the last bars of cell service. I sent one final text to the group, arrived. Going dark. The cabin was larger than I'd imagined, 2 stories of rustic cedar with a wraparound porch. No other houses in sight. Just trees, silence, and isolation. Ryan really fixed this place up, Jason said, carrying our bags inside. Wait until you see the basement. He converted it into a home theater. I thought of Brittany's warning and felt my stomach tighten. The first evening passed without incident. Jason cooked dinner, opened wine, even gave me a shoulder massage as we watched the sunset from the porch. Had I not seen his journal, I might have believed this was genuine intimacy. Remember our first date? He asked, his fingers tracing patterns on my arm. You were so nervous you knocked over your water glass. I wasn't nervous, I corrected automatically. The waiter bumped my chair. A flash of annoyance crossed his face before the mask slipped back into place. Always have to be right, don't you, Em? His tone was teasing, but I recognized the warning. Sorry, I said, playing my part. Maybe I'm misremembering. He smiled, satisfied. It's okay. It's cute how you rewrite things sometimes. After dinner, he suggested we check out the basement. My pulse quickened, but I kept my expression neutral as I followed him down the stairs. The basement was indeed set up like a small theater. Projection screen, comfortable couch, dim lighting. But my eyes immediately noticed the small camera mounted in the corner, its red light blinking. What's that? I asked, pointing to the camera. Jason's smile didn't waver. Just a security thing of Ryan's. This place is pretty remote. I nodded, but my mind was racing. I excused myself to use the bathroom, and once alone, I sent a pre-arranged signal from my backup phone, a burner I'd hidden in my toiletry bag. 3 quick texts, then off again. When I returned, Jason had poured 2 glasses of wine. He handed one to me with that perfect smile. To us, he said, clinking his glass against mine. I took a small sip, then set my glass down. Actually, can we talk first? I've been thinking about us, about everything. His eyes narrowed slightly. Of course, babe. What's on your mind? I took a deep breath. I know about the journal, Jason. His face transformed in an instant. The warm smile vanished, replaced by something cold and calculating that I'd glimpsed only in fragments before. What journal? He asked, his voice eerily calm. The one where you documented everything. Amanda, Brittany, Courtney, Danielle. Me. I maintained eye contact, refusing to shrink. Your little project of breaking women down. Jason laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. Emily, I think you need help. This paranoid delusion. Save it, I interrupted. I have photos of every page. His expression flickered. Recalculating. You went through my private things? Invaded my privacy. His voice took on that familiar wounded tone. After everything I've done for you. Everything you've done to me, I corrected. The gaslighting. The isolation. Making me think I was crazy. This is ridiculous, he scoffed, but his eyes darted to the stairs. You've clearly been talking to someone who's poisoned your mind against me. Yes, actually. For someone's. Your previous victims. That hit home. I watched color drain from his face, quickly replaced by a flush of anger. You had no right, he hissed, dropping the victim act entirely. Those were my private records. Records of abuse, I said. And we've all compared notes. He took a step toward me, his mask completely gone now. What do you want? Money? Is that it? I want you to feel what we felt, I said quietly. To know what it's like to be powerless. Discredited. Erased. He laughed again, colder this time. And how exactly do you plan to do that? It's your word against mine. And sweetheart, no one's going to believe the crazy girlfriend with a history of memory problems and emotional instability. I've made sure of that. They might believe 5 women with the same story, I said. And physical evidence. I nodded toward the camera in the corner. Its red light was still blinking, but what Jason didn't know was that it wasn't transmitting to Ryan's security system. A sharp knock at the front door upstairs made him flinch.
"That would be Amanda," I said. "Brittany and Danielle are already outside."
"Courtney couldn't make it. She's still healing from what you did to her." Fear flashed across his face, real fear, before he composed himself. "This is insane," he said, but his voice had lost its certainty. "What are you all going to do? You have nothing." I pulled out my phone and played the audio I'd just recorded, his admission about the private records, his threats about no one believing me. "We have everything, Jason.
Your journal. Our testimonies.
And now, your confession."
The pounding on the door grew louder.
"You manipulated us by making us feel isolated and powerless," I said, standing up.
"But we aren't powerless anymore. And you're the one who's alone now."
We gathered in the cabin's living room, 5 women connected by invisible threads of shared trauma. Jason sat on the couch, his confident facade crumbling as he looked from face to face. "What is this, some kind of intervention?" he asked, attempting a laugh that came out hollow.
Amanda stepped forward. "No, Jason. This is accountability."
I watched as recognition dawned in his eyes.
"Amanda," he whispered.
"You've changed."
"Yes," she said calmly.
"I rebuilt myself after you tried to destroy me." Danielle spoke next, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. "We all did." "This is harassment," Jason said, standing up. "I'll call the police."
"Go ahead," Brittany replied, holding up her phone.
"They are actually expecting us. Detective Rivera is particularly interested in these."
She swiped through the photos of his journal entries.
The color drained from Jason's face.
"Those are private. You can't."
"Actually," I interrupted, "documenting plans to emotionally abuse and exploit women crosses several legal lines.
Especially when combined with this."
I held up a flash drive. "All the financial records showing how you borrowed money from each of us.
Tax fraud.
Identity theft in Courtney's case. And these," Amanda added, revealing printed copies of emails where Jason had threatened Brittany after she left him. Jason's eyes darted toward the door, calculating.
"Don't," Danielle warned.
"Running will make it worse." For a moment, I saw raw fury flash across his face, the true Jason, stripped of his manipulative mask. Then, remarkably, he did what he always did, shifted to victim mode. "I've been struggling with issues from my childhood," he began, his voice taking on that familiar wounded quality.
"I never meant to hurt anyone.
I need help, not punishment."
"We're not here to punish you," I said quietly.
"We're here to protect others from what you did to us."
"And to reclaim our truth," Amanda added. Jason looked at me with those persuasive eyes that had once made me doubt my own reality.
"Emily, after everything we've shared, you know me. The real me."
I met his gaze steadily. "That's right. I do know the real you. Better than you think."
The wail of police sirens grew louder in the distance. "You have 2 options," I explained. "Face the legal consequences of what's on this drive, or agree to our terms."
"Terms?" he asked warily.
"Registered therapy with a specialist in narcissistic personality disorder.
Financial restitution to all of us.
And a legally binding agreement to stay away from us, permanently. And if these issues ever lead you to another relationship," Amanda added, "we've established a network now. We'll be watching."
The sound of car doors slamming outside punctuated her words.
As officers approached the cabin, I saw something I'd never witnessed before in Jason's eyes. Fear. Not performed, not calculated, but genuine fear of losing control. In that moment, I felt neither victory nor vengeance, just the profound relief of finally standing in my own truth, surrounded by women who'd walked the same painful path. We had turned our shared suffering into collective strength. We had transformed from victims to advocates. And most importantly, we had reclaimed our voices from the man who had tried to silence them. As Jason was led away, he looked back at me one last time. "I really did love you," he said, a final manipulation. I smiled sadly. "No, Jason. You never loved any of us. You only loved the control." Outside, the 5 of us stood in the fading daylight, a circle of survivors. "What now?" Brittany asked softly. "Now," I said, "we heal. And we help others recognize the red flags we missed." Amanda put her arm around my shoulders. "The puppet master's strings are cut. For the first time in years, I felt fully present in my own body, my own mind, my own truth. The long journey back to myself had begun.
And I wasn't walking it alone.